You know those moments where your past suddenly comes back in the worst way possible? Today's story is one of those moments. Hey guys, welcome back to Reddit Brew. This story comes from the r/relationship advice subreddit, and it's about a vacation fling from over 10 years ago that comes back in a very awkward way. When OP meets his girlfriend's family and realizes he's already slept with her sister. Let's get into it. Years ago, I had a 1-week fling with my girlfriend's sister, and she doesn't know about it. Will everything blow up if I tell her? I started dating my girlfriend last December. I really do like her, and I love her. Last weekend, I was invited to a barbecue at her parents' house, and I met the whole family, and amongst them was her sister. When I saw pictures of them both together on Instagram, I didn't recognize her because she's changed her hairstyle completely and dresses very differently. But once I met her in person, I identified her. Back in 2012, I won a prize at work consisting of a week-long vacation in a touristic place, and I met her on the vacation at the hotel. We connected extremely well on a physical and intimate level and had a great vibe the whole week. Basically going to the beach, going out at night, and spending the night together for 6 days. We kept contact for a time through Facebook, but later on she deleted her profile and we just stopped interacting completely in maybe 2014 or so. When my girlfriend was introducing us, I almost froze for a moment, and I could see in her eyes that she also noticed and stuttered a bit, but we both acted like we had never met before the whole day. I could see her glancing at me a few times, and I had absolutely no doubt it was her. Same name, same voice, same smile, same tattoo. Should I tell my girlfriend about this? I mean, if I was her, I think I would have wanted to know something like this because it's not like a lonely kiss when we were in high school. But I also think it might hurt her to know, and it may also hurt her in general. And that's what I fear the most. I've talked to my best friend about it, and he says I should never tell her, but I should also talk about it to her sister. People keep asking in the comments if I talked to her and what happened. I posted this update recently. Today I had lunch with my girlfriend and gathered the courage to tell her about me and her sister back in the day. I feared that, as some people wisely pointed out, maybe her sister had already told her, "Hey, I've met that guy years ago and had something with him. He didn't tell you about it?" But turns out her sister didn't tell her anything. I tried to just state what happened back in 2012 in the most factual and brief way possible, and that even if she has a couple pictures with her sister on Instagram, I didn't recognize her before meeting her in person the other day. Thank God she believed me. But I could also see how it was progressively affecting her, and she ended up crying about the fact that it even happened. It completely broke my heart and made me feel extremely guilty. I know I'm doing the right thing not hiding it, of course I understand that, but I'm still devastated over the fact that I'm hurting her so much. She ended up being embarrassed to cry and wanted to leave the place we were at. So I paid, picked up coffee to go, and we walked to the harbor and sat there to keep talking in a more solitary place. She started asking a lot of questions about very specific things, like how many times, how was it, if I enjoyed it, if I felt something for her after the week, how many times had we messaged each other, if sleeping with her sister was better than with her, and many more things that took me by surprise. Because I thought that maybe she would want to know the least amount possible about the whole situation. I know I did wrong, but I ended up lying and told her I don't really remember that much about those days, and that a few days don't really mean anything in my life, that I don't feel and have never felt anything for her sister. This is the absolute truth, and that this was just a vacation thing that lasted for those days, etc. She seemed worried about emotional attachment, and I have none. I'm certain her sister will tell her the same. I don't know. I just feel like a moron. Like I hurt her even though I never meant to. Like anything that I could say and do would be a mistake. It turns out that, to make things worse, the last 2 years they haven't had a great relationship since her sisters recently divorced and moved back to their parents' house. And my girlfriend feels like her sister is manipulating their father against her. So now this kind of hit like a terrible blow, and she says her sister possibly expected me not to tell her, so she could keep this info to throw at her at some point during a fight or something. I don't really know her sister, so I don't know, but sounds like a very resentful and complicated person to deal with, at least at the moment. It's just so unfair overall. And again, I don't want to make this about me, but I feel like a villain. She said she will eventually talk to her sister, but not today because she's too upset, and I think it might be a good decision. As I was typing this at work, I talked to her again on the phone, and she's going to stay in my apartment tonight. I'm glad she accepted, so I'm going to leave the office early and prepare some nice food for her and try and talk to her a bit more. What makes this story messy for me is that OP keeps insisting that it meant nothing. But earlier in the story, he literally says that the moment they met, they had an instant physical and intimate connection. And then they spent a week together going to the beach, going out at night, and sleeping together for 6 straight days. That's not exactly what most people think of when they hear it meant nothing. And it didn't just end there either. They continued talking on Facebook for almost 2 years afterwards. The only reason they stopped talking was because the sister deleted her account. So even if OP is telling the truth, that he never had emotional feelings for her, it's still hard to ignore that this wasn't just some random one-time hookup. And from the girlfriend's perspective, that's a lot to process. Personally, if I was in her position, I don't think I could do it. Even though it happened over 10 years ago, this wasn't just a quick mistake at a party. This was an entire week together, and then years of communication afterward. I do believe OP when he says he didn't recognize her from the Instagram photos at first, because photos can be really deceiving. But what makes things a little strange is that he admits he lied to his girlfriend and told her he barely remembered that week, even though he insists the most important part, that he had no feelings, is true. And that's where it gets weird, because most of the time when people lie about something, it's usually because they're trying to hide something. So it's a little strange to lie about remembering the situation while also insisting the truth is that it meant nothing. And to be fair to OP here, this also puts him in a pretty difficult position. 10 years ago when that all happened, he had absolutely no idea that the woman he was hooking up with would eventually turn out to be his future girlfriend's sister. From his perspective back then, it was just a random vacation fling with someone he met in a hotel. There's really no way he could have predicted that a decade later, their lives would collide like this. So it's not like he knowingly crossed some boundary at the time, but that doesn't make the situation any easier now. Because for the girlfriend, it's still a pretty uncomfortable thing to have to process. Alright, that's where we're gonna leave this one. This is one of those situations where nobody really did anything wrong at the time, but it still ends up creating a pretty awkward mess years later. I'm curious what you guys think. If you were the girlfriend here, would you be able to move past something like this? Or would it just be too weird knowing your partner had that kind of history with your sibling? Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!